So I love building something legitimately and having everybody see the rawness of it. I think that's actually the point of doing the whole R3ciprocity Project, or at least one point is that there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty. There's tremendous amounts of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and yet I'm doing it anyways and being embarrassed in front of everybody. You know, the fascinating thing with all of this is it tells me that we have this very strong culture of manipulating and hiding the truth from everybody. So I'm a professor. I have an engineering degree. I have studied business and innovation and entrepreneurship for almost a couple of decades now. And it's not that I'm not successful in that realm at all. And I understand it. I've read thousands and thousands of articles. I think the minimal when I started actually tracking this now, because I've got a large library, I've got 38,000 or 3,800 different articles and books and things that I've read in my library. And that's not everything. That is a fraction. And what I have learned, despite all of this, is I still don't know what I'm doing. And what I've learned is that in both domains of my life, in building the R3ciprocity Project, in the startup world, in the innovation world, but then as well in the academic game, when I often see a lot of PhDs come into it and not know what they are doing. And, you know, most people either do this play where they tell you that, well, you're wrong for feeling like that. Or a lot of people, go into things where maybe we shouldn't do those particular things, and they are maybe not best practices, let's just say that. And I think in all of these domains, it comes down to that we are extremely ambiguous, where we often face a very ambiguous world, and we have a culture, particularly, I don't think it's just true of American culture. I live in America, but I think it's true of all around the world. And in fact, I think in some other cultures, it's even stronger, because the desire to not fail, or the desire to show that you know what you're doing and you have some semblance of putting your act together, is extraordinarily strong. At least in America, we've got a lot of warts, and everybody knows all of America's problems, because, man, there is some big warts. And I can go down that avenue and list all these kind of things and be like, "Weish." But at least it's present, and you can see these warts, at least a small number of them, and you can see them every day. And so it doesn't feel as bad, at least for me, to be as authentic and more open as I possibly can to tell you that I don't know what I'm doing, that I wish I didn't spend as much money on building it. I wish that it would work right off the get-go. I wish that everybody would come flocking to the R3ciprocity platform. I wish that when I do research that it would be much more quicker, and I can get things done, and I would be internationally acclaimed for the work that I'm doing in my research. But it just doesn't work that way. That's not real life. I think most people get so confused because they're hiding, or that there's just collective there is this collective belief that you can't disclose, that you don't know what you're doing, that you haven't quite figured it out. And it's just this really fascinating dynamic that we promote all of our successful things. We never talk about anything that actually doesn't work. And then on top of it is that we don't acknowledge that there's often a lot of trickery that goes on. And I'm not going to necessarily suggest what these things are, but they're likely in all of these domains, right? In the startup world, people believe that raising capital is the key thing, or it's an indicator of success. So lots of people raise capital by going to their wealthy neighbor or their wealthy friend, and they get them to pay a bunch of money, and usually it's a dad or something like that does that, and then we never talk about those things in an open way. And that's not a bad thing. That is actually parents doing the right thing. Like, that's the thing that I get frustrated with, is that we don't acknowledge that there's all these things that are going on, and it hides and it makes it frustrating for everybody else. So raising funds, right? Like, parents do get involved. It is a lot of connection kind of things, all of that kind of stuff. In the research world, there are networks that people work together, or even you get access if you're the right place, you get to work with the right people, all these kind of things. And then those right people have connections and all of these kind of things. I'm not saying that they're wrong. Like, this is the thing. Like, I think when people hear when I say this, they're thinking that I'm saying that they're wrong, or that they're nefarious, or that it's very sketchy. It's just what the world actually is often. And we hide those things. And so all of the people, we hide them like crazy, right? Like, we just don't disclose. You'll never hear anybody say that, in the startup world, that all of my funding came from my connections through my dad or whatever. All of this is to say that we just need to be a lot more open with it, and open with all of the warts that we actually have. And sometimes the warts that we think are warts are really not that warts, right? Like, for me, to build this legitimately and authentically, not knowing what I'm doing, that I'm spending a whole bunch of money. I spend a whole bunch of money building this platform. And I feel so guilty all of the time, because I'm not spending enough. And B, I wish I could pay my developers more. I wish I could do things, I wish I could be more, I wish I could get a whole team together in the United States, and we've got a development team in India, and who are wonderful, by the way. I'm not saying that, but, if you were to go by how everybody says things work, you would never get things done. And you would give up very quickly. And the only thing that you could do in most cases is to acknowledge that you are just a screw up, you're messy, that there's nothing often going in the way that, the stories are told, but you get up and you do it anyways, right? Like, for my research, it is slow, and I work with people that are slow, but that's awesome. That means I'm actually doing the right thing. I know when it's slow and painful, I know they're doing the right thing. I get nervous when things go too easy. I do. I really, really do. When I see it coming together and it looks just too good to be true, because that is not my experience. And man, I'm old enough now to say I'm very bright. And I'm old enough now to say I work really hard. And I know what the hell I'm actually doing, and it's still slow and painful. And it is just the process. And you can't change it. It is what it is. It is just the process of what it means to do things in this world, one little step at a time. So if you hear these people that are trying to sell you and it's a fast kind of gamey thing, just look out. Just be a little reserved in those moments, because I know it's not going to work out for you. But if it's slow and painful and you don't know what the heck you're doing at any given moment, you're on the right path. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day.